Okay, so hi everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon
Good
from
evening, ma'am.
wherever you are joining us. If you can hear me clearly, please let me know.
Good evening. I can hear you, Rachel.
Okay, perfect.
Hello,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, and feel free to actually switch on your camera if you want to. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. So just give me a moment to do that. Okay. Okay. So hi everyone, welcome to Dynamics 365 Power Platform User Group Malta. We have our monthly meetups and it holds every last Thursday of the month where we get to come together. We talk about Dynamics 365, the different applications in Dynamics 365, both CRM. We also have Power Platform, Business Central, and HRO. And we also get the opportunity to also learn about Power Platform, all the applications in Power Platform. And one of our sponsors is DUG, which is Dynamics User Group. Okay. So Dynamics User Group is it's a community. Dynamics User Group is everywhere. Just think about it. It's everywhere in different parts of the world. It's in different countries in Africa, in Europe, in United States, different parts of the world. That's where we have DUG. And they work on creating opportunities where individuals can learn, they can come together, they can host meetups, and also conferences or anything that you want to do that relates to community for free. Yeah, and the rule of this meetup is that you are not to advertise your business or company. We are all just here to share our knowledge and also learn together and be respectful. If you have any questions, you can drop it on the chat. You can also unmute your mic to ask any questions because it's a community. We are all here to learn. Any question you have, don't think about it differently that, okay, I don't want to ask this question. It sounds too simple or it sounds different and I don't want to ask it. Feel free to ask your question because we are all here to learn. Okay, so the Dynamics User Group has forums, it has conferences. If you are in the United States, there's a conference happening in Chicago for DynamicsCon Live. I was opportune to attend the one this year, which was in Denver, and it was amazing. So if you need the promo code to actually get 50% to sign up for the conference, you can reach out to me and I'll share the code with you. They also have teams, skill up, webinars. There's also meetup conferences, and there's a YouTube channel for DUG. And Dynamics User Group is holding a visual conference this period, so you can attend and get the opportunity to learn and get the opportunity to listen to speakers from different parts of the world. And you can scan that barcode that you have at the left side of our screen. Okay, so these are the next meetups coming on. Ohio, these are past meetups, and Texas. There's also a Southeast US meetup happening this September and a meetup happening in Canada in November. So this is DynamicsCon Live. If you have the opportunity to attend, I would advise you to go for this conference. It's amazing. There's so many people coming. There's so much opportunities out there. Like you get to connect with people from different parts of the world. You get to learn about what other people are like, what things people are doing with Power Platform, with Dynamics. It's really, really amazing. And it's something that I would love everybody here to experience if you have the opportunity to. Okay, so I've talked about the meetup. And if you want to also speak, if you want to speak at the DynamicsCon Live, you can submit a session to speak at DynamicsCon Live, which is happening in Chicago next year. So you can submit a session to speak there. Yes. So I'm just going to go ahead to, and also you can register for the DynamicsCon visual, which is happening in November. So check the event, attend, because there are so many speakers that are going to be speaking, and you're going to learn a lot from it. So attend. Okay, so I'm just going to move this session to our speaker for today. Hi, Joseph. If you can go ahead and share your slide. It's going to be talking about everything on Power BI. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Rachel. Can you hear me? Can everyone
Yes,
hear me clearly?
I
Do I
can
have
hear
any
you.
network?
No, the sound is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much, Rachel. Rachel, by the way, is also an MVP. So thank you, Rachel. Yeah, thank you, Rachel, for the nice, interesting insight on dynamic user group. Thank you. Okay, so good day, everyone. Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. Before we begin, I'd like to know a thing or two about the people on this call. So how I normally have sessions is I ask the question, if you were to be given $1 million, but that money will only be given based on how you introduce yourself in 1 minute, how would you introduce yourself? So quickly, I'll love to hear a response. We can type it in the chat. You don't need to talk. So quickly, tell me a thing or two about you. Something interesting. 1 minute, 1 millionaire. How would you introduce yourself? Rachel, would you love to take up that challenge?
Okay, you said introduce yourself in 1 minute.
Yes, $1 million.
Okay. My name is in 1 minute. My name is Rachel. I love Power Platform. I love Dynamics. I love Microsoft, and I love community. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, you told us what you love, but $1 million, $1 million. What you love is good. But who is Rachel? That that that's the
Okay, who
question.
is Rachel? Okay, so Rachel Irabo is a Microsoft MVP, a Power Platform, and a Dynamics 365 CRM developer. She's also a Microsoft Global Community Initiative regional lead for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And also she's one of the organizers for this meetup where we have physical and visual meetups. And then I think I passed 1 minute, but yeah, it's a lot. But yes, I love technical writing. I'm also a technical writer and a content creator. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Out of all the things, the one thing I remember is the content creator. I took that with me. But yeah, thank you very much, Rachel. So Rachel is a whole lot of stuff. So 1 minute, I'd love to hear the people that are joining where they something interesting about them. That new, I'm a data analyst leveraging business data to assist companies to achieve competitive advantage with tools such as Power BI, Excel, Power Query. Outside work, I am a football lover. I support Liverpool. I think Gadu will have to send me his invoice. Okay, okay. I really love that introduction, Ganu. So quickly, it's also good to let know the people on this call right now. Thank you, Ganu. Yeah, you can send your invoice to Rachel, not me. Okay, okay. Thank you. 1 minute. Okay, so I'm saying somebody is typing. So yeah, I'll just wait for that message. Then I will introduce myself. Then go into what we have for this session. My name is ATM. I manage POS business as a regional sales rep, and I'm a learner in the data field. Okay, nice to meet you, Mustafa. Okay, okay, nice to meet you. Nice to meet everybody on this call. So for me, what sums it up, aside from what I have on this slide, so what I have on this slide is more or less like my qualification. What For me to introduce myself, I consider myself as a problem solver who is skilled in some certain tools to solve business problems for specific organizations. So in one moment, I could be a Power Platform user. Another moment, I could be more geared towards Fabric. Another moment, I could be more geared towards normal Office 365 tools like Excel, SharePoint, Teams, and PowerPoint as well. So nice for us joining this call, and trust me, uh, by the end of this session, you'd have learned a thing or two in this session. Now, I'll be going to Power BI straight away without wasting much of our time. Can we all see my screen and you can hear me clearly? Just want to confirm that.
Yes, we can. I can see your screen and I can hear you clearly.
Okay,
I can see your screen too, sir.
okay, thank you very much. Uh, okay, okay, so thank you for that. Thank you for that confirmation. Now, the title of this session, I called it Power BI Hacks because I was thinking, what should I talk on Power BI? And I felt I should talk on things that have helped me a lot to be more efficient in what I'm doing. Maybe when I'm given a task to do something, or when I'm just working on probably a personal project or something. What has helped me to achieve some of these challenges, and I called it Power BI hacks. Some of them you may already know, some of them you may know, some of them you may not really. It may be the first time you are seeing it, or you may not really understand the application until probably today's session. So that's what today's session is going to be about. And I'll be demoing some interesting things I found useful in Power BI. In Power BI. Okay, so right now I have a report on my screen. Um, okay, so the report is not for you to see my Power BI, what I can do with Power BI or not. It's just a relatively simple report on my screen. But where I'm going with this is how were this report built? They are built by measures. So I have certain measures created in Power BI under this table called measures tables. So I was able to create all these reports with this table. Now, if you can see on these measures, I have one, two, three, four. I have like the measures inside folders. That's the first thing you notice. And I have these measures that are inside folders, inside the various subfolders. And when I check the list of measures I have here, I have like probably 20 something measures. 20 something measures created for this my report. Now, the one stressful thing that I know people have had in Power BI, which I would like to ask us, when we want to measure, create a measure in Power BI, how do we go about creating measures in Power BI? So how do you go about creating measures in Power BI? Does anybody in the audience want to try? How do you go about creating? Okay. Okay. We have somebody that uses Dark Studio, which is quite good. Dark Studio is an external tool which he uses to create his measures, which is quite good. I like the fact he mentioned that. That's like a new. So we create measures using that function. Yes, I know we create measures using that function, but I mean, like, what process do you go to create a measure? You probably click on this button, right? Or who wants to? You click on this button and you add new measure. Now, the issue, what's the major limitation with doing this? This works fine. This works fine. I click on this button, I click on new measure. But there's like a major limitation doing, with adding measures this way. Probably I want to see the revenue, the total revenue. I can click on this button, new measures. I can call this, let's say, um, rev, because I think I have revenue, rev underscore one, and I'll say it equals to some the part sales, right? Part sales revenue, part sales revenue, and I can click on this to add. But for me to do this, this would work if I only want to just add one measure, and this is normally like this before was the normal way I was doing it. A lot of us we've been probably doing it, adding our measures this way in Power BI. But if you've been following and focusing on the latest developments in Power BI, Microsoft introduced a wonderful tool in Power BI that can allow you to add all your measures at once in Power BI. So what that means is instead of you doing this first, revenue is equal to sum of this, and you now come here again, maybe I want to do the average revenue, click on this new measure. I have to call this average equals to average revenue. And the same goes for probably all these measures that I need to create. Microsoft has introduced a wonderful tool in Power BI called the DAX query view. This DAX query view can allow us to do some powerful, interesting stuff in Power BI as at now. So if you are using the latest version of Power BI, you should have that query view on. But what you need to do, if it's not showing by default, under this your views. These are views in Power BI. For those who may not be aware, you have your report view, your table view, and your model view. Your report view is where you add your visualization to your Power BI. And your table is where you check your data. Your model is where you do your data model. So there's an introduction of an additional view called DAX view, DAX query view. Now, for you to have this feature on your Power BI, you should be using the latest version of Power BI, and you should come to your preview tab under your file, go to your options and settings, come to your options, and under this your options, you have something called preview features. Under this preview feature, so how Microsoft generally work is they first release some features to specific users, either specific users or they allow people to decide to try out a feature first before they make it a compulsory or mandatory feature in Power BI. So what this does is based on this, people get to share feedback, and if based on the feedback, if the sentiments are good, Microsoft gets to decide to, you know what, let's add this as a normal feature in Power BI. So you don't have to come here to turn it on as preview feature. But what you just need to do is come here under this preview feature, you can turn on this query, write that query with Copilot. Okay, that's one. And you have something called the DAX query view. I believe they've already made it generally available right now. So because I can't see it here, so that means it's already generally available. So all your Power BI should come with this DAX query view. So the moment you have this DAX query view on your system, what you need to do is you need to do a simple measure to add this measure in. So for the purpose of this demo, I've created a table called DAX_M. This is separate from this my measures table, my anchor measures table, So this is just for the purpose of this demo. And what I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to delete all these measures because I did a test for now. Delete all of these measures that I just added. I'm just going to delete all the measures I added so I can show us the demo. Yeah. So I've deleted these measures. So right here on my screen, let me just, I can highlight this, I can copy it and clear it. So, but right here on my screen, these are the measures which I have. So I wrote the measure for my average revenue, and what you just need to do is first of all, start with a defined expression under this DAX query view to specify you are going to create a measure. So this is called measure. And what you need to do is specify the column, the table where the measure will be. This is the table where the measure will be. Then specify the measure name. This right here is the name of the measure, and you now specify what the measure is going to be equal to. So you can do it for all the measures you need to add to your Power BI. You can do it for all the measures you need to add to your Power BI. And so I've copied this. Do this again. So the moment I pasted it, the reason why I didn't say there before is because I've already run the measure before on this my DAX query view. But the moment I have it right now is what I can just do is I can click on either if I just want to add DAX_M, if I just want to add average revenue underscore 3 to this my model, all I'll just do is update model, add new measure. So this will just add it to that measure. But if I want to add all the measures I've created already, I can just click on this upload model with changes, which allows me to upload all the measures I've created into that particular table that I have. So the moment I've seen that, can you see this? This is the average revenue, the total sales, total revenue, transaction count, and all these measures are added to the table. This saves me the time of having to click on this button to add new measure, add new measure, add new measure every single time. Every single time. Now, there are also other stuff you can do on this DAX query view. On this DAX query view, besides just adding your measure. If I want to see the output of a measure, if I want to see the output of a measure, what I can do is, without adding it to a visual, I can click on these three dots, which is the more icon, click on these quick queries, and I can click on this button called evaluate. Evaluate. The moment I evaluate this, for the person that said he uses Dark Studio, I think they should be a lot familiar with how these measures are. So what this does is it will evaluate the measure you have, and it gives you the result of this measure. So if you even want to export this measure, if you want to export this measure, the result of this measure into an Excel sheet, you can either copy the entire table or just copy a selection. Let me copy this entire table. I can go to an Excel document and I can paste it there. This is very good, especially when you want to troubleshoot your values. In case if you're not getting the right values. Let me just have a blank Excel and I can paste this here. So I have the measure results here. So that's the very first, should I call it hack or trick, instead of using Dark Query View to help you to upload all your measures. You can use the Dark Query View to help you to evaluate your measures. So you can create your measures directly in this Dark Query View. Now, where this will come in handy is, imagine you have a data set, and you already know how your data is structured, how your data looks, you know how the tables are. Rather than having to come here and be clicking on new measures, you can write out all the measures you need. You can even take it to GPT to tell you how to structure it. Write out all the measures you need, and you can just paste it here and click the run button. And once you do that, it updates all your measures to your measure table. Okay, so that's the very first hack which I have. So if you have questions, please you can jot them down, and towards the end of the session, I will attend to that. Now, the second thing I want to bring to our notice is something called calculation groups. Calculation groups. Now, the reason why I want to bring calculation groups to our notice is this is a feature that a lot of people don't really know. A lot of people may know that it exists, but a lot of people probably do not know what they need for these calculation groups is. And prior to, I think sometime in 2023, maybe late 2023, you had to use an external tool like your tabular editor to be able to bring in calculated groups into your Power BI. Now, why would you need to use calculated groups? If you see under this report that I have this section called time intelligence measures, that I had to create measures for revenue year on year, revenue previous year, revenue previous month, revenue CF, revenue icon. I had to create all these same measures which are the same across board. So I had to create this for revenue. I had to create this for transaction. You have the transaction year on year, transaction previous year, transaction icon. When you have a situation where you have to create basically like the same set of measures that follow the same logic, like your time intelligence, they are particularly very good for your time intelligence measures. A calculation group can save you the time and stress you will need from creating all those measures. So how do you create calculation groups? So like I said, prior to new updates to a Power BI, you have to go to an external site to create that calculation group, external add-in to create that calculation group. But now we have calculation group already in Power BI. You can see this under this your model view. And under this model view, if you see at the very top here, you have something called calculation group. Calculation group. So I'm just going to click on this create calculation group. But it's important to know that when you create a calculation group, what it does is that you won't be able to use implicit measures. So in Power BI, implicit measures mean like when you drag a value field and a categorical field, you get a result, you get a visual. Let me just do that so that we can see. For instance, if I just want to create a simple report, I can come to this part sales. I drag this revenue and I click on this store. I create this visual. This visual. This visual was created using implicit measures in the sense of this revenue is part of the columns I have in this data. I didn't write a measure for this revenue. So Power BI did the calculation at the back end for me to give me these results based on the context I have. That's what you call implicit measures. But explicit measures are all these measures I added in myself. Your revenue, your all these measures are your explicit measures. So what it means is when you're adding calculation groups, it's important to know you wouldn't be able to use implicit measures again in your Power BI. So that's something you need to note. But it's normally best you create all your explicit measures because most of the time you don't need to, I would say largely you don't need to use those implicit measures. It's better to have like explicit measures. So what this does is if you click on this under your model tab in your Power BI, your model view, if you click on calculation group, these changes will discourage implicit measure, which is fine, yes. So the very first thing it gives you is a calculation item, which we are going to get into. So this one, I can just call it AC. I can call it AC for actual. Click on this. So this calculation group I have, this is the name of the calculation group. I can edit the name if I want. I can add new calculation if I want. So if I click on this, I can rename it if I want. I can add new items if I want. So this is the calculation item. This is the very first one, which is actual. Now, for us to, if I want to add a new item, I can click on this button, new item. Then just call this previous year, PY. And for this, I'll just say calculate the, let me say, some, the selected, I can say some of selected, not some, I can say calculate selected measure, comma, same year last year. And I can specify the dates, my date table. I don't, which of my dates is, let me use the straight dates. Yes, so the moment I do this, this will be my previous year. So by using selected measure instead of explicitly stating the name of the measure, and I can click on commit. So let me just rename this to actuals and previous. underscore previous. So the moment I've created this calculation group, and you have the calculation items here, now let me bring it to a visual so that we can see what we've done. So let me check the revenue and the year. Let me just check this. Okay, revenue and the year, total revenue. Let me use year, right? I'll put it in a matrix so we can see what's going on. This is the revenue and the year values, which we have here on my screen. Revenue and the year value. So normally, if I'm to use the normal measure I've created, you see, I had to create different measures for revenue, previous year revenue, that year, and stuff like that. So let me take an instance right now. Let me check the revenue previous year. I want to see the comparison between the revenue and the previous year. It's showing me this value right here, which is good. But this way, I had to create this for all my single item. I had to create previous year for revenue. I had to create previous year for transaction. I had to create previous year for units sold. Now, where the calculation group will come in handy is we have this revenue and units sold. What I'm going to do is just click on this calculation group. Click on this calculation group. Okay. Well, so click on this calculation group. It's giving me the value, though it's not keeping it in the right place. Most likely due to how I wrote that expression. I could have probably done it better, but that's the entire idea of the calculation group. So if I remove revenue, let me select transaction. Okay, that was the wrong stuff. Let me select transaction count. Units sold. Units sold. Okay, so it gives you the value based on that calculation group. It gives you the actual and the previous year for whatever measures you created. Now I could edit the measures. I was just doing this for a demo. I could edit the measures to make it give me the right result, but that is like the idea of the calculation group. So what this calculation group saves is instead of me having to create those groups, those calculations one by one, your revenue last year, your revenue previous year, your revenue previous month, I can use a calculation group to create just actual and just previous year. And the moment I've created actual and previous year in the calculation group, I just need to select my base measure, which is your revenue, your units sold, and it will update your reports that you have on your visualization. So that was the second tip, using calculation group. All of these tips I've said so far, the first tip was using calculation, using DAX query view to add all your measures at once. The second tip was using calculation groups. Now the third tip I want to mention is using more visuals in Power BI. Like using the get visuals in Power BI. Get more visuals in Power BI. Now, by default, Power BI has some normal visualization, which are good on their own. They are very, very good visualization. But if you want to tell like some further rich stories based on your data, you can add more visualization, more custom visualization that allows you to create nice and interesting things based on the data you have. Now, for example, this visualization which I have on my screen is called an infographic visualization. So this is showing the revenue and the units sold, but it's showing this instead of showing it as column bar, it's showing it as money. Now, if I click on this on the edit button to add or remove stuff, I can decide to format how I want this particular visualization to be. Now, for the infographics, you have this edit mark close by. If I click on this edit mark, so if you see the shape I selected is a dollar shape. If I click on this, let me click on this shape, select this shape. Instead of this dollar, if I want to see, let's say a love symbol, I have that there. Okay, if I want to see a food or drink, let me just do this. I have that there. Have that there in my shape. So that's using this infographic visualization. So how can you get a visual like this in your Power BI? How you can get this type of visual is very, very simple. It's very, very simple. So what you just need to do is go to this more button, get more visuals, and you click on this get more visuals in your Power BI. It's important to note you actually have to have a Power BI license to go to the market store. But once you sign in with your Power BI license, you have option to go to more visuals. So I just want to quickly accept and get my details for that.
Hi, Joseph. We have something on the chat. So if you can zoom in a bit so that they can see what you are showing on your screen.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank
I'm
you.
coming. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So I just want to quickly again just I used to forget this email address. Okay. Uh, okay. So okay, so you need to sign in. Under the sign in, you have place where you get more visuals. Let's set this. Okay, still loading. Okay, the moment I've signed in, which it has, I'm navigated to this page, which is called the App Store in Power BI. Loading. Okay. So under this App Store in Power BI, you have various type of visualization dependent on the story you want to tell. There's a lot of nice visualization. Like me personally, I like Zebra BI visualizations. They allow you to tell IBCS type of reports. You have this word cloud. visualization, you have this. If you want to do a text slicer, you have this text slicer. If you want to do a date picker, you can select one of that. There are a lot of nice visualization. You have info river. If you search for infographics, you will see the visualization here, infographic designer. So that's the visualization by Microsoft. All you just need to do is click on it and you click on the add button to add that visualization to your Power BI. Now there are more visualizations like that which you may find very, very useful to tell your story. This, yeah, so you can click on the add, but I don't want to add it because I already have it. So this is that's the infographic visualization. You have the text slicer, you have this scroller, which is like a news type of visualization, dependent on the story you want to tell. If I want to say the revenue and um, the month. So this is telling me the story of the revenue by month. Revenue and month. Okay, the month is this month. I didn't select month's name, but the revenue, this like February, the month, the value of the revenue, and it gives me this nice story which I can decide to have in my Power BI, dependent on what I want to do. So that's using the scroller visualization. You have the infographics visualization, which are nice visualization that allows you to do a lot more stuff than that you can. Now, I'll be getting towards the final tips. The final tips which I would like to share before we call it a day. Now, I have two tips to share before we call it a day. So this tip right now is using. How did I build this card in Power BI? I built this card using the reference label feature in Power BI and the multiple cards. Not the multiple cards, sorry, the new card visual in Power BI. If you select this visual, if I select this visual, can you see we have revenue, the revenue value, and we have these icons showing here. And all this visualization changes based on the particular picture I select. Let's say printer sales, copier sales, the visualization change. Now, for you to do this in Power BI, it's very, very simple. All you just need to do is you can utilize the new card visuals in Power BI. So recently Microsoft released the new card visual, which is the new card visual. And under this new card visual, I can select the revenue value. And come to my anchor measure, select the revenue value, which I have total revenue. Now, once I have this revenue value like this, the revenue value like this, I can come to this section called reference labels. Under this reference label, I can add a label to it. So, for instance, I want to add the last year revenue. So I can come here, click on this, click on revenue previous year. So I have this like this, the revenue and the previous year revenue. Now, what I can also do to this is I can now go ahead to start formatting my cards as I would like it to be. can come to the cards. If I want to add a GIF, something like I have in this other report on my screen, if I want to add a GIF, I can add it to my cards. You can create nice cards like this with the new reference label feature in Power BI. Reference label is not only available in your cards. Reference label is also available in some other visualization like your bar charts, your bar charts and your column charts. So you can add reference labels, and with reference label you can also build a report like this IBCS sales overview reports. You can build it with reference label. Though this one I use the custom visual, a Zebra VI card, but you can build all of this with reference labels in Power BI. So the last tip I will be giving to us before we call it a day, the last tip I will be giving to us before we call it a day is using. Now, one feature that people keep on asking, people occasionally ask is, how can you refresh your report in Power BI? I'm not here to show us how to refresh, how to schedule refresh in Power BI, if that's what we were thinking. I'm not here to show us that. But I'm here to show something that most people don't use, which is highly, highly valuable, which I highly recommend people should use in Power BI. Now, let's take a situation. I have this report. And my manager, for example, when you build your report, you share it to a particular person in your organization, and you want your manager to be able to, your manager can decide when to refresh the report. You are not dealing with real-time data that, oh, it refreshes as the values are updated, and you don't want to necessarily like schedule a refresh. Yes, you can schedule a refresh, but your manager still want the control that, okay, you can leave the schedule of refresh on, but I want a situation where I can be able to click on a button and it refreshes the report based on data added. Now, for you to do this, which, like I said, is very, very valuable. For you to do this, give that button for your manager to refresh. You can use a visual, which a lot of people do not use, called the Power Automate visuals in Power BI. The Power Automate visuals in Power BI. Now, so what I need to do is I click on this button, have the Power Automate. The Power Automate. So yeah, I have this visual in Power BI. So it tells me what I need to do. Select an environment, add data, set your flow. It's a very simple process. I can just add any data, for example, for the flow we are going to do. It's going to be very, very simple. So the moment I do this, maybe I'll select this environment, right? So the moment I've done this, so I can decide to format my buttons, which is good. But I can now go ahead to set up the flow which I need to set up. Now, if you've not used it before, you have a documentation on how to go about using this feature in Power BI. So in Power BI, yeah. The moment you select that, you should be good to go. So let me select this. Okay, yeah. Um, So click on this, add data, select your flow, which should be, just do this again, select the data I want. Okay, maybe because I selected the measure. Select this. I tested this before. I've used this a couple of times. So I'm a bit tired. I'm a bit tired, but like I said, you always have this learn more. The process are very straightforward to learn how you can add this. Now, in the meantime, in the meantime, while I sort this out, any questions on the session so far? Any questions? I'll sort this out quickly. Maybe there's a quick setup I need to do. So, any question on this session so far before? Any question?
And we have 2 questions. We have 3 persons raising their hands. So, hi, Emeka. Sorry, if you can go first. If you can unmute your mic. Hi, Emeka. Can you unmute your mic and ask your
Okay.
question?
Good, good, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Joseph, for organizing this session. So, my question is on the custom visuals. Is it read or seen somewhere where they said custom visuals slow down your model in Power BI? So my question is, does it apply to all the custom visuals, or there are some select few that one can safely use without slowing down your model? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question, Delvis, right? So yes, like you said, custom visual can slow down your model. Now, the thing is, it depends, it highly depends on the particular visual you are using, on the degree of how much it will slow down your model. Now, one tool you can use to check your model speed and performance is when you added a custom visual, you can use something called a performance analyzer. A performance analyzer feature is already in Power BI. It tells you the visuals that are taking the most battery intensive power in your the most time to load, rather. It gives you the visuals that are taking the most time to load in your Power BI. And also, another thing to be aware of is using custom visuals largely depends.
Hi, Joseph. We're not hearing you.
Okay, sorry, my network went off. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I
Okay.
can. Yeah.
So I said, okay, so what I was saying is using custom visuals, you also have to be a bit careful using custom visuals in sense of anything that happened to the provider, as far as your provider is not Microsoft, anything that happens to the provider of the visuals can impair your reports. So your report, what I mean by that is if, for instance, you use a custom visual from a company and the company decides to shut down business uh, any at any point in time, you may have to find a way to modify your reports, essentially. So that's the little drawback using custom visual. With using custom visual. So timing is number one thing, and also the reports. Now, I just discovered what I discovered was the issue was it was my network. So I was actually doing the right thing, but it was like I said, it was probably not loading due to network issues. So, but right now you can see when I clicked on that Power Automate Visual, I click on Edit. So let me just take the process back for everybody to see. This is the Power Automate Visual. I click on this button. I click on Edit. It's, it should load this. It takes a bit of time to load, but it should load the Power Automate interface inside Power BI. It also largely depends on your network. So once it does, you can go ahead to build out your flow. So can you see it has loaded in my Power BI? So what I want to do is, like I said, the use case scenario for this, where I find it very useful and where I use it a lot, is that scenario where you want to refresh on demand. Let's say your manager wants to be able to click on a button to refresh your entire report. You can hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No, no, I can't, sir.
You cannot hear me.
I
I
can't
can
now. I can hear
I
you
can
now.
hear you now. Yeah.
Okay,
If
so
okay.
okay, sorry about that. I think network is slightly unstable. So let me quickly wrap this up. Then I'll address all the questions. So like I said, the beauty of this, can you still see my screen? Just want to confirm.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. So the beauty of this is on demand. Your you can give the power to the person to refresh the flow as they like. They can refresh the data. So if your data is on an online, so they can decide to refresh the data as they want without, and they can still have the normal schedule refresh. But with this button, you can create a flow that can allow them to refresh the data as they want. Now, using the Power Automate flow, for those who are not aware of Power Automate is part of the platform for the Power Platform. This call is Dynamics User Group and Power Platform User Group. So what Power Automate does is it allows you to automate your life. That's what I call it. In sense of, if you have repetitive processes that you do on a day-to-day basis, Power Automate can probably help you to solve that problem. Now, there are various types of flows in Power Automate. I'm not going to start going into each of them, but we have the instant cloud flow. What this means is you can trigger the flow on your own. So if I click on this instant cloud flow, I'm just going to create a very, very simple flow to do this. Yes, so this is Power BI button. So when a Power BI button is clicked, so what I'll just do is add a new step. So Power Automate is a very, very simple, easy to know interface where you have a trigger. A trigger is a sense of something that is starting your automation. And in this case, we are saying when a Power BI button is clicked, then you have an action. Action is what you want to happen after the trigger has been pressed. So when a Power BI button is clicked, what do I need to do? Let me say refresh a data set. So we have various actions in Power Automate. The one I'm going for here is refresh a data set, because when you publish a Power BI report, you publish the data set and the Power BI together. I'll just click on this, refresh a data set. And what I just need to do is specify the workspace. Workspace is where your reports, your visualization, and your reports and your data set is saved. Let me just specify maybe my workspace, for instance. you need to select the data set you want to refresh. This one, and all I'll just need to do is click on save. The moment I've done this, Power BI button, when the Power BI button is clicked, the data set, all I'll just need to do is click on save. I didn't give it, it's always best to give it a title, save regardless, it's just save as on title. It has saved, he gave it a title by itself because I didn't give it a title. I refresh data and come back to the right and come back to the report. Click on this. So just to be sure the flow is correctly highlighted, I said it to roll a bit. So the flow, we have this flow. So this flow, the next thing I'll need to do is apply, and I can share it with the people that will be using it. So first thing is apply. So I've successfully applied the flow to this button.
Sorry, sir.
The
Your
next
screen is not moving. All right. Maybe it's from my hand.
I'm saying, can you move your cursor a bit, Joseph?
I'm moving my cursor.
Okay, it's not moving.
Uh,
Yeah.
where did it stop? Okay, let me stop sharing and reshare.
We are seeing your screen on Microsoft Power Automate where you have your trigger and your action, your first action.
Okay, can you see it now?
It's loading. Okay, we can see it now. It looks like you have run the flow or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I build the flow. So I can just click on the edit button. So just for the purpose of us that we're not able to see it. So you can always edit the flow. So when a Power BI button is clicked, I added an action, which is to refresh the data set. And what I did was specify the workspace. So when you publish a Power BI report, you publish it to a workspace. A workspace is where you host your Power BI data and reports. And the next thing is I specify the data set for the reports. So this is the data set for the report. The moment I've done that, I click on save and apply, save and apply. So the moment I've done this flow, I've done save and apply. So the button, the flow will be applied to that button. The one thing you need to note after you've applied it is you will need to grant access to the flow to whoever is going to be using it. So let's take for instance your money. You need to give the flow to your manager. So you need to share the particular flow you created with whoever is going to be managing it. So let me just click on apply again to be sure this is applied. So the moment I've applied it, I'll go back to the reports. Can you see this is the button? Run a flow. So with this, I can reduce the size of this. I can always change the color and the format. And I can put this somewhere else. Let me say I put this on top. And I will just rename the button. I'll call it refresh data. Refresh data. So what this does is that this will give access to the consumer of the report, the access to refresh the data as they please. So they can directly click on the flow to always refresh the data, especially if your data is in an online source or you've connected it to its necessary gateway and you need to be like you want to control how you refresh the data. In Power BI, you can schedule refresh, which is good. But if you want to control, oh, maybe I want to by myself click on refresh data. Maybe that's a requirement for your manager. You can do this with the Power Automate flow, which I just showed you. So this is a button. Once you share the Power BI file with the person, you also have to share the flow with the person to be sure the person can see that. And with that being done, the person can do what I highlighted. I hope that's clear.
Okay. We have an. I thought we had two more persons raising their hands. Do you still want to ask your questions? And can you also let us know where you are joining us from? It would be great to know where you are joining us from. Okay, please, if you can unmute your mic, I don't want to call your name wrongly. I don't want to make a mistake in calling your name. If you can unmute your mic, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, sir. My name is Ganyu, calling from Lagos, Nigeria. Please, sir, I want to ask a question, but it's a little bit drive off from what you have been saying. Since can you just please shed more light on data normalization? Because I've been cleaning some data lately, and that's the term I keep hearing the most. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question, Ganil. So when we talk of normalization, essentially is, and I think this data set I have is even a good, I think is actually even a good example of this, of the normalization process. So what the normalization is you have data in a particular, you have all your data, and a lot of organizations, especially in Nigeria, they store their data all on this single file. So you have like one single table that has a huge load of columns, huge load of informations in their data, right? They have huge load of information in their data. Now, what that does is it introduces a lot of inefficiencies. You have a large data size where you have all the files, all the columns in that particular table. You have a large data size. You could have a situation where your data is like 2 gig or 3 gig because of that type of situation. They are storing all the data in that sense. Now, what normalization is splitting a table into different various like dimensions, as they will call it, various dimensions. So splitting like a single table into like multiple dimensions. That's what you tend to hear as data normalization. Data normalization. And the reason why I said this data is a good example is if I go to the data, which I have, come to this file manager. Let me go to the database report. I hope I can quickly see it. Yeah, this is the data behind this report. So let me just quickly load it. For example, this is probably one of the most famous data you will probably see in a lot of places. You have historical sales data. So this data. So you can see how all these informations, you have the region, the market, the store, the fiscal period, trade date, model, line of business, all of this information are kind of like stored on this single data sheet. Now in the Power BI, if you notice what happened in the Power BI is you have this data into tables which are like dimensions. And these dimensions are typically like the dimensions you see in your data, like the 4Ws. That's what I tend to call it. The who did what when. So when is like your calendar, you have your calendar dimension, your where is your geography dimension. So what happened is I broke that data into its separate parts. Like instead of storing all the information on that single table, you can normalize the data. Now, the opposite of normalization is actually denormalization, where you have a situation where you have a lot of data, a lot of data that have been broken. Maybe you have product subcategory, product category, product class as different tables. If you can decide to, you know what, instead of having this as different tables, you can put them in a single table. That's denormalization, the opposite of normalization. For normalization, you want to break down like a single table into its various respective dimensions or fields. I hope I've been able to answer that question.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joseph, for the presentation and everything. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I'm just going to go ahead and share my slide. Give me a moment to do that. Or Joseph, do you want to continue?
No. Okay. I think we've done. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me once again, Rachel. And I look forward to other sessions as well.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so if you did not join this meetup from the beginning, this is the Dynamics 365. This is the Dynamics 365 Power Platform User Group Malta. We have physical meetups here in Malta. If you're in Malta, you can join us. We have physical meetups in Malta at the Microsoft office. But for now, we are currently doing visual meetups. So if you're interested in speaking, if you have anything you want to share, maybe on Power Apps, on Power Automate, Power BI, Power Pages, on Dynamics 365, any of the Dynamics 365, you can reach out and let us know what you would love to speak about. Okay, so in this community, we consider networking very important. When we're doing physical meetups, we try to introduce ourselves. We try to talk about what we are doing or where we are currently working, or if we are just learning about the platform. And I think Joseph has already covered that at the beginning of his presentation. So if you can connect with us on Meetup, we have a community on Meetup so that you can be updated on our monthly meetups. So if you can just scan this. So you can follow us on Meetup. And also we have a community on LinkedIn. You can also scan this and follow us on LinkedIn. We are on LinkedIn, we are on Meetup, we have a Facebook page. We also, if you have us on Meetup, we actually send emails, and in those emails we have our social media handles that you can follow us at. We also have a Twitter account, and we have a WhatsApp group where different people can come together. If you have questions, you can ask your questions. And also we pass information about the meetups in that WhatsApp group. And you can connect with us also on Twitter. I do not know if this works, but you can scan it and connect with us on Twitter. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your presence here. And our next meetup is going to be in October, and we are going to be talking about Power Apps automation with Kit Atherton. So I would advise you to join so that you can learn about Power Apps and how you can make your apps run perfectly well without no issues of any kind. Yeah.